There was a time when cartoons weren't afraid to be truly terrifying. No sugarcoating, no holding back, just pure nightmare fuel. And standing at the top of that creepy mountain is Courage the Cowardly Dog. But why? Why did we keep coming back to a show that scared us so much? Why did we love being terrified? Maybe it was the bizarre creatures, or the haunting music, or the surreal horror that somehow felt too real to be in a cartoon. Or maybe it was just because Courage did something that no other show was doing. You and I are going to dive into the episodes that haunted our childhoods and uncover why this little pink dog made us fall in love with horror. Courage wasn't like other cartoons. He wasn't brave, he wasn't strong, he wasn't the fearless warrior that we're used to seeing in these horror stories. He was us, small, weak, and constantly afraid, but never giving up. And that's why I think that I connected with this show so personally. Horror usually gives us these tough, rugged heroes, right? But Courage gave us someone relatable, a character who was terrified but fought back anyway. Because if he could do it, then maybe we could too. And that's why, no matter how disturbing the show got, we kept watching. Because we always knew that Courage would find a way through. But how did it hook us so deeply? I've got a few reasons that I want to share with you, and hopefully you'll agree with me along the way, but if you don't, please let me know. The first reason why is King Ramses' Curse. This is the one. This is the episode that haunted an entire generation. But why though? It wasn't just the story, it was the character of King Ramses himself. He was this 3D animated ghost-looking thing that was just incorrect looking. He was stiff and he had unnatural movements, and his monotone voice felt like something out of a corrupted video file. Our brains just couldn't process him like a normal cartoon character. He sat in that uncanny valley, making us deeply and viscerally uncomfortable. And yeah, obviously the horror was visual, but it was also existential. Ignoring something supernatural led to consequences, something that even adults are afraid of today. But here's where Courage flipped the script. Instead of running or hiding, Courage, that little dog, bless him, he fought back. Now, of course, he was afraid. We all were. But he solved the problem, and in doing so, the episode did something genius. It made us want more. We were equal parts terrified and hooked. If King Ramses was nightmare fuel, then Freaky Fred was something far worse. Fred wasn't a monster or a supernatural thing. There's no curse involved. He was just disturbing. And that's what made him so scary. His unsettling grin, whack. His eerie, poetic narration, whack. The way he never blinks, whack. Courage the Cowardly Dog, though, he's tight as Anyway, there were no jump scares with Freaky Fred. There's no monster suddenly lunging out of the shadows at you. Just this slow and suffocating dread of being trapped with someone who might do something truly disturbing. This was horror in its most pure form. And what made it even worse, Courage could not fight back. He was helpless. But even in that helplessness, he still endured. This show was teaching us something, wasn't it? Horror is not about monsters. Horror is sometimes about people, and sometimes the scariest ones don't have claws or fangs. They just smile. Ugh. Now, what happens when your entire world turns against you? This episode answered that question with some existential horror. The spirit in the House of Discontent was not a ghost or any kind of slimy monster or anything. It was something way worse. It was a force of nature. It wasn't going to attack you, and it never chased anybody. It just existed, floating there, watching and judging. And as the farm slowly withered away, Courage couldn't fight it. So how did he win? Courage did something completely absurd. He just started dancing. And that's the brilliance of Courage the Cowardly Dog. It took our biggest fears, the ones that we couldn't escape from, and showed us that sometimes the only way to beat them is to face them head on, even if it looks ridiculous. Some episodes were scary. Obviously, we're talking about them right now. But some were heartbreaking. The Mask wasn't about ghosts or monsters, it was about abuse. Kitty arrives, masked and mysterious, attacking Courage for no reason. But as the story unfolds, we learn the truth. Kitty's running from someone. The horror in this episode didn't have anything to do with a cursed slab or a ghost or anything like that. It was real-life fear. The fear of being trapped, of losing someone that you love, of knowing that no matter what you do, you might not escape. And, for a kid's show, that was pretty damn bold. This was a side of Courage that went, around the jump scares and around the cursed monsters and things, and it told us stories that really mattered. So I find myself wondering, why did I love this show so much? And how come everybody that I talk to about the show also remembers it incredibly fondly and puts it up there as one of their favorites from their childhood? It's because Courage the Cowardly Dog understood something powerful. Horror is obviously about fear, yes, but it's also about overcoming fear. Courage was not fearless. He got scared in every single episode, but he kept going. And that made horror feel kind of safe, I guess, because if Courage could face his monsters, then maybe we could too. Courage the Cowardly Dog was one of the most monumental and influential children's horror shows, but it was horror with heart. It taught us why horror works so well and why it sticks with us after decades later, Jesus. And it taught us to kind of stand up for ourselves in a way. Hey, I'm glad you made it this far. If you like hearing me talk about this kind of abstract analysis about scary things from our childhoods, then you might like this episode as well. I'll see you there.